reality of real estate is because I got tired of reality television shows portraying real estate as women who walk around in mini skirts and stiletto heels, and we show three houses and they talk to their client any kind of way, and they show up and get to settlement and they make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, in what world does that really happen? Be honest with yourself. Oh, the market's bad, the interest rates are high, and yet there are thousands of agents succeeding, and you're having the pity party. So again, hold yourself accountable.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wisdom from the Helm, where we go beyond the typical highlight reels of real estate's most trusted women to reveal the secrets of their success, not just in business, but in life. We're your hosts, Danielle Wilkie and Heather Frick, and today we're thrilled to welcome Candy Miles-Crocker, a founding coach of the Helm, and so much more. Candy is a force in the real estate industry, a coach, a trainer, a mentor who has spent over 2 decades helping agents build sustainable, successful businesses. She is the creator of the Real Life Realtor Training, a no-fluff, real-world coaching and training program designed to help agents master the fundamentals and grow with confidence. And she is also the author of The Reality of Real Estate, the essential guide to planning, managing, and growing your real estate business, and has graced Inman's top real estate coach list year in and year out. Known for her direct, motivating, and deeply supportive coaching style, Candy has trained thousands of agents nationwide. Her work is rooted in real-life experience, what works, what doesn't, how to navigate the highs and lows of business without losing yourself in the process. And 2 things we really admire about Candy is her no-nonsense approach to work and life and her amazing commitment to boundaries and energy management. So let's just dive right in. You created the Real Life Realtor Training a while back, and it's been very successful for you. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you thought was missing in the industry that inspired you to build it to begin with.
What's really funny, when I started as a realtor, I had no idea how low the bar to entry was. And so I interviewed with my brokerage and I was like, oh, they hired me. Come to find out I was breathing, so they hired me. And so it was kind of like the masses. And as I got deeper into it, I found that there wasn't a whole lot of real training going on in real estate world. And as a result, the consumer suffered because of it. Not every consumer had a great experience. And so my mission was to educate real estate agents because they've done their pre-licensing and all of that, but that just teaches them the legalities of real estate and not the practicalities of real estate and what actually happens in a transaction. And so I developed the Real Life Real Estate Training Program to teach agents how to, move through a transaction, how to deal with difficult situations, how to communicate with buyers and sellers, and how to follow up. And so all the little nuances that nobody teaches you, and they say, oh, you'll learn it in time. Well, the consumer doesn't want to have you learning on their watch. So they want to have a good experience. And so what I found was the more I trained, the more agents got confident and they learned the little nuances. And so therefore, their customers had a better experience and the agent built a referral-based business.
I think, Candy, something that our audience would love to hear about is you're an author. You wrote a book, which is like such a huge accomplishment. And I wonder if you could talk about like that process. I know there are a lot of people who are like, well, I would love to write a book. I want to write a book. How do I write a book? Candy, like, how did you decide to write a book? What was that process like for you? Just talk us through that.
So I love content. I love educating agents. And so I had hundreds and hundreds of blogs on my website. And I can't really remember who had the idea of me writing a book, but someone did. And I was like, well, I have all these blogs. I can categorize them and tell a story and make a book. And so that's how it came to pass. But the book actually has the blogs in it, but I gave the agents activities to do at the end of each chapter because I wanted it to be more hands-on and not just, oh, you read it and I wanted you to feel what it was like to do the work, right? And I recommend the book to people who think they want to be a real estate agent, right? So reality of real estate is because I got tired of reality television shows portraying real estate as, women who walk around in mini skirts and stiletto heels, and we show three houses and they talk to their client any kind of way, and they get show up and get to settlement and they make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, in what world does that really happen? And so I wanted to get into the nitty gritty of this is, if you're thinking about real estate, read this book because it is nothing like what you're seeing on TV. Nothing. And so the end of the book, I had dozens and dozens of my friends who are agents write in to tell me their funniest real estate story and their most horrific. And so I wanted to say, this is what you have to look forward to. It's like meeting the raccoon at the end of the dead raccoon at the end of the steps when you walk into a house, or having the um, potential buyer forget to turn the tub water off and at the walkthrough, and so everything just floods. So this is what really happens. Or and the agent, it was so funny. The agent, she's like, I didn't have any towels, so I took off my clothes and I sopped everything up and then put my clothes in the dryer and headed to settlement. This is what happens in real estate. This is what happens. This is the reality of real estate. And so I just want everybody to have a realistic dose of what happens. And it's a crazy world, but it's so much fun because you do have a lot of stories and you get to meet so many interesting people that I love it.
Hmm. I love that. That's awesome.
You told us too, just the genesis of this book. I mean, I think if a lot of people in our audience have ever thought about writing a book, it can feel so daunting, so overwhelming. I think you really had quite a community of support. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did that help kind of get it over the line for you?
Well, first off, to write the book, I had taken my son years prior to, he was into like the Harry Potter and all those kind of books. And I forget which book it was, but the author was in town. So he and I had a little date, and I took him to hear the author. And the author said that he dedicated 30 minutes a day to writing this book. And so when it came time to write my book, I said, I'm just going to work on it 30 minutes a day because everything can feel so overwhelming that your brain just shuts down. So when you commit to a small morsel of time, and it's not even an hour because an hour the brain will say, we don't have an hour, but 30 minutes, you have 30 minutes, and invariably it's always longer than 30 minutes. So you've tricked your brain. So that's how you actually get over the hump of actually doing it. But then I was speaking at an Inman conference in San Francisco. And I said, too bad. I was talking to my pastor and I said, too bad my book won't be ready. He's like, what? It will be ready. I said, no, it won't. And he said, yes, it will. And so you need to do this, 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 and this. And coming from your pastor, you have to do it. So I made the phone calls, and I literally had the books shipped to San Francisco to my hotel, like a case of them, so I could have them at the conference. And it was that extra prodding that you need because it's scary, like the production, and it had already been edited, it had already been done, all that. But then I had to present it to the world. And in the back of my head, I was like, is it good enough to present to the world? And so I was procrastinating because, Inman is a huge event. I'm not ready for Inman. And he said, oh, but you are. And you will do this. And so I did it. And it was well received. And, Brad Inman even, I gave him a copy and he was grateful. And he wrote me back later how great it was. And so sometimes you need other people to see something in you that you don't see.
I love that. That's so good. That is so
I would have procrastinated, I know, even though I'm not a big procrastinator, but it was scary.
yeah.
And I just didn't know how it was going to be received. And I had put so much into it that I was kind of nervous.
Oh, totally. Of course you were. We would all, oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. But how cool that you had, like you said, someone that believed in you, but then also someone that was sort of like an accountability partner. Like, okay, you're doing it, and you said you don't back out to your pastor. That's for sure.
Yeah, and so it's so funny you say that because he literally told me I'm your accountability person. So, yeah. So even though he knew I was writing the book and all of that, he would check in and check in and check in. So yeah, he was a big part of it. I even thank him in the book. Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
it's very cool.
All right, so changing gears a little bit, kind of going back to coaching world instead of writing world. Um, there is a balance in coaching. We think about coaching in real estate. It means a lot of different things to a lot of people. It means consultant, it means mentor, it means teacher, it means coach, like it means so many things. And so, how do you balance, especially in real estate where that stuff all gets kind of mushed together sometimes? How do you balance giving advice with helping someone discover their own path when you're coaching them? Like, how do you know which hat to wear?
Well, I think I'm really good at reading people, and I'm very good at listening to what they're saying and what they're not saying. And so when I coach someone, I can tell when they're not telling themselves the truth, right? And so I don't care if they tell me the truth. I said, doesn't matter to me. But you have to be honest with yourself. And I can usually see through it. And then me, I will just call them on it and say, well, it seems to me that this is an issue, right? And then I just shine a little bit of light on it and let them think about it, let it marinate with them. And they usually acknowledge that that is an issue, right? And when you're coaching, it all depends on what your person's goals are, right? A lot of times we always think that it's monetary, and it's not always monetary, right? And so we have to go wherever they want to go. And that's why when I have a call with someone, I can determine if I'm the one to be able to help them or not. And some people I can't help, right? And I'll acknowledge that up front. I'm not the coach for you because I'm not going to have you waste your time, money, and energy and get your hopes up on something I can't deliver on. And there are other people who, in my world, aren't coachable, right? Because if you talk to someone who knows everything, then I can't tell you anything, right? And so you, as a coach, you have to be able to discern who those people are, and then be willing to walk away and just tell them, I may not tell you you're not coachable, but I'm going to tell you I'm not the right coach for you. But I wish you all the best.
Something I really like that you said at the beginning was you talked about you can kind of sense the like what's going on below what's being said. So there's like these facts or statements that are being made from your coaching partner, your client, and what you bring as the coach is that sort of ability to intuit what's really going on below the surface. So it's, not just the content of what's being said, but sort of the context that that person is bringing to it. And it sounds to me that, you know, that's such a critical part of coaching. I mean, I could be coached by an AI these days, right? Like, couldn't I? I mean, that AI can tell me what to do, right? Couldn't it?
Right? And it could, but when you're face to face or Zoom or on the phone with somebody, you hear the pregnant pause, right? And in that pregnant pause, that's when the magic happens because that means they're editing something before they say it. And so I want to know what you just edited that wasn't ready for public consumption that you're holding back on, right? So that's where that little millisecond, it's like, okay, what were you thinking before you said that? Because you edited whatever you were going to tell me. What was your first thought? And for me, that's where the magic is.
And that idea that, just to build on Danielle's point around really sensing the context versus just only the content, that's so critical in a lot of the work that you and I and the rest of the, Helm founding coaches have been up to lately on the conscious leadership journey. Would love to just hear from your point of view, as you've been exploring conscious leadership, why you think it's important to bring that into real estate today. And then also, like, what really stuck out to you about it?
Being 100% accountable, that really, really stuck. Take accountability for your actions, your inactions, your lack of communication, your poor communication, your what do you call it, Heather, when you don't have the 100% agreement, um, the clean agreements, when you don't make clean agreements, that can have devastating, have a devastating impact on your business, your life, um, your relationships. And so it just taught me to be more clear on what I wanted and what I wanted from somebody else. And if they couldn't, that's fine. At least they knew. I wasn't making so many assumptions, um, thinking that you could just read my mind as to what I wanted or what I needed. And so that for me, taking 100% accountability for Candy, and then making clean agreements with others in my life. So I didn't work in the land of assumptions as much. I'm still a work in progress, but I have gotten better. And it keeps you, for me, I want to say, not my expectations are lower for others. It's like I'm not so much focused on you as I am on me and making sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's for conscious leadership. That's what has really done for me. And I'm always, not always, but I'm usually fairly present. But now I'm even more present because I think that's the basis of conscious leadership is to be conscious. So, but it's hard with so many distractions. You can do this and this and this, but and that's why I love coaching, because when I'm coaching someone, I am 100% present with that person, and that just brings me so much joy. And I think it brings them joy because how many times do you talk to someone and you feel like, are they really listening to me? Are they really paying attention to me? And when you're coaching a client, when you're giving them 100%, they can feel it. When you're listening to every word that they're saying and you come back and you repeat it, as you have taught me, Heather, you repeat it, then they know you're listening to them, and that makes them feel good.
Yeah. Thank you. There's so much application, right? I mean, you're bringing this into your life, you're bringing it into your business, you're bringing it into your coaching, it sounds like. And I just really appreciate the breadth with which you're willing to apply that.
Yes. It's a game changer, honestly. It changes your life. It really, really does. Yeah, you don't toss stuff on other people as much. It's like this is about you.
Wow. I mean, that's a big flip for folks, you know?
It is. It is. Yeah. Yeah, things aren't happening to you, they're happening for you. So you have to figure all that out.
How do you see this showing up in the way that you're coaching and working with agents? Like, what are like the biggest ways that you have been deploying this?
Well, it helps when agents can see, again, be honest with yourself. What are you really doing to grow your business? Oh, the market's bad, the interest rates are high, and yet there are thousands of agents succeeding, and you're having the pity party. So again, look, hold yourself accountable. Are you getting up? Are you getting dressed? Are you doing the actual activities that can lead to the success that you say you wanted? Right? As I said earlier, you don't have to tell me the truth, but your bank account will tell you the truth. Your mindset will tell you the truth. So you have to be honest with yourself. If you want to move forward, you have to stop fooling yourself into, I'm really doing the work when you really aren't. And I think that's what a lot of real estate agents do. They trick themselves into thinking that they're doing the work, and they're just not. They're phoning it in. I mean, if you don't get up and get dressed every day, you're phoning it in. I'm sorry. You can't. Athleisure is fabulous during COVID, but guess what? COVID's kind of gone. We're not quarantined anymore. You have to get out in front of people who actually want to buy or sell real estate. And they're not going to come knocking at your door. So that means you have to be out. You have to have coffees. You have to have lunches. You have to have meetups. And you have to dress like you are successful. And a lot of agents don't want to hear that. But in the society we live in, how you look does matter. Sorry, how you show up does matter. If you're showing up in yoga pants and I have a $2.5 million house, I may not want you. At least put on a pair of trousers and some hard shoes. That's all I ask. I'm not asking you, no stilettos, no mini skirts, but show up as a professional because you are a professional. And that's again how you elevate how consumers look at real estate agents.
One of the things you talked about at the beginning of that was um, that victim mentality. And, we talk a lot in conscious leadership about that drama triangle. And I know you love the drama triangle, Candy.
I do. I love I love that drama triangle.
Full of drama. And you've got that victim mindset, you got that villain mindset, you have that, hero role that people like to play. How do you see that as it shows up in your coaching? Like, do you see agents showing up playing all those roles when you're working with them?
Right. So I always just ask them, so what are you going to do about it? Just like that. What are you going to do about it? Because I was raised not to be a dweller. And when I say a dweller, it's like if something happens, my father would say, so what are you going to do about it? How do we move forward from here? And so that I take that into my coaching. This is happening to you. This deal fell apart. This client decided not to buy. So what are you going to do? Are you going to host more open houses? Or you don't have any listings? Are you going to ask agents in your brokerage, can you hold their open houses? What are you going to do? There's nobody who's coming to save you. I can't even save you. And that's, I think, a myth around coaching. If I get a coach, everything will be okay. It's all about you. If you don't do the work, there is nobody who can save you.
Or if I'm not ready, which can be an option too. Like, actually, Candy, I just want to sit here in my victim little pity party for a couple days. And you're like, great. When you're ready to move that forward, let's talk about it. We can talk about how we might be able to help you shift out of that. But you can't make somebody move out of that. Ultimately, they have to decide. Right?
I don't have that kind of power. I wish I did, because then everybody would be successful. But your your pain has to be painful enough for you to move. And I can't gauge when that is, but only you can. And then when it does become painful enough, then you're in desperation mode. And we don't want to get to desperation mode. And real estate is it's the compound effect. And so you just can't turn on one day and say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to work today and everything's going to be okay." No, it's going to take you another 60 days before you to come out of that hole. And so you you can't just turn it on and off. You have to be consistent in everything that you do. And that's what I try to coach on. It's like it's a roller coaster ride. And if you don't have the wherewithal to do it, you may as well do it, get a 9 to 5 now. Because to be an agent, you have to have a lot of discipline. And it's not easy for a lot of people because they say, "Oh, I want the freedom of being a real estate agent." But that's a double-edged sword.
Ken, I want to ask you about one of the things you just said, which I thought was really interesting, which is this idea of you've got to sort of look the part. You've got to sort of portray success and maybe some confidence before you may have that, right? Especially if you're a younger agent. Do you how do you coach people to do that, right? It's that feels challenging, right? That requires some courage, right? Of, hey, I need to look the part of an agent that sells $2.5 million homes, but maybe I haven't done that yet. Like, how do you help people get over that?
That's a really hard one to do because a lot of people, they lack the confidence, which is why they shrink, right? Because their biggest fear of a real estate agent is, or especially a new agent, what if a client or what if somebody asks me something I don't know the answer to? They feel like they're never quite ready. And so my thing is, I never say, I don't know. Just say, let me get back to you. I'm going to double check my answer, right? So I try to find little ways to help them build their confidence. Getting dressed every morning, going into the office, or going on the pricing tour, that starts building your confidence because knowledge builds your confidence. So you have to show up for every ounce of training you can get, every sales meeting you can get. Go to open houses to see how other agents run their open houses. If you have pricing tours, go and talk to other agents. Ask if you can be a fly on the wall at a home inspection, whatever that looks like, so you can start building your confidence. Because what happens is, and this literally happened to me when I was a new agent, I was just not saying anything. When I went to my first sales meeting, I said, they're talking a foreign language. I don't know what they're talking about, but I was silent, right? For weeks and months and months. And then I was at some event and someone was talking about real estate. And they were talking about it globally and nationally. And I said, well, that's not true because we just spoke on this at my sales meeting. And all of this just came out. And I was like, where did that come from? I had no idea that I had just been taking all this information in, but I was confident at that point just to say it. And I was pretty impressed with myself. So the to build your confidence, you just need knowledge. And I don't mean that to say take more classes and do this. Get some hands-on experience. Talk to other agents. I was in my office every day, with literally nothing to do. But I was there every single day because other agents would come in and I'd hear them on the phone and I would literally say, Danielle, that sounded interesting. I heard one side of the conversation. That sounded interesting. What were you talking about? And they would tell me, and I would learn that way. And so, and then agents would see me in the office every day. If they needed help with an open house, I was there. If somebody called in, I was there. And so I just surrounded myself, immersed myself in real estate, and just listened and learned and just attended every single solitary training I possibly could to build my confidence. And then I can go out into the world and say, I'd love to be your real estate agent. But you have to put yourself in those positions to do that. And a lot of agents, you work from home, there is nobody coming at your house to give you anything except for junk mail, right? So you have to get out where the people are who can help you build your business.
It sounds like, we were talking about this a little bit this week at the Helm around people think they need confidence, but actually confidence comes after you have some courage. So the courage is first, then the confidence. And the courage, like your point is, I think is what I hear you say, is that you certainly need to know enough. You can't go out with zero, but you could spin on knowing things forever. What you really have to do is just get out and do. So like get your hands dirty and do it. And by doing that, you will then create the confidence you seek versus waiting for the confidence to come first. Does that sound like what you?
And you have to have the courage to say, I don't know. And that's for an adult to say, I don't know, I don't have the answer to that. The courage to say, Heather, can you help me understand what you were just talking about? Can you look over this contract for me? That takes courage because you have to admit to yourself, I don't know the answer. I need help. And so many times people don't want to appear that they don't know something, that they need help. And it takes courage to admit that I don't know everything.
Yeah, which I think is why it's important to find the right coaches and the right communities that you can feel confident and safe with so that you can ask those questions because it does feel high risk. In your office, you don't want other agents who potentially could refer people to you or whatever, compete with you to think less of you. So I think there's this fear that if I show up with my true self and my vulnerability, my curiosity, people will judge me. And so if that's true, then just find it in a different way. Find yourself a coach, find yourself a small group that you can feel, but you need to find it.
You need to find it. And real estate is something that changes with every transaction. Every transaction is different. That is the beauty of being a real estate agent because just when you think you might be bored, trust me, there's going to be a difficult or a challenging client that comes in to like say, "Oh my gosh, I got to get my game up. I got to, really get tight on every aspect of this transaction," and it makes you better. Every transaction makes you better. You learn so much, or you should learn so much if you're in learning mode. And I'm in constant learning mode. I love when something appears across my desk. And I'm like, I've never seen that before. I love that because I can never say that again. So now I have to figure out how to deal with that, and that just makes the job exciting every day.
I love that. I've got one final question. Is that all right, Heather? Is one final question?
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, Candy, if you could go back to yourself, like when you first started in real estate, and give early real estate Candy some advice, what would you say to her?
First of all, I would have told Candy to do some research because that's why I laughed when you asked this question because prior to real estate, I worked at a radio station. I was their national sales manager, and I had to travel every single month. And as my kids were getting just a little bit older, I'm like, well, I want to be that mom who goes to all of their kids' um, sporting events, volunteer in the classroom, go on field trips. I want to be that mom. And traveling every month, I just couldn't do it. And so I'm like, what can I do? And my husband says, you should go into real estate. I was like, that sounds interesting. I could do that. What? Literally, that was the thought process. I I went online to find who gave the class, took the class, didn't see anything about how long it takes to ramp up. I didn't even think about any of that. It's crazy. It wasn't until I was first day on the job, literally, and there I was learning that most real estate agents fail the first 5 years. And then the first year, they only have one transaction. I was like, what? One transaction? That cannot be the case. I said, I can't do that. Right. And, used to see on the business cards, $1 million club and all of that. That is the most meaningless statement known to man. They're not making $1 million. They might have a volume of $1 million, but that equates to like, I don't know, $20,000. What? So Candy would have done a lot more research in knowing what it took to be a real estate agent. She really had no idea, and it was all trial by fire. And I said, one transaction is never going to work for me and my family. And so I ended up doing 14 transactions my first year versus the one. And my success came when my third grader, my middle child, Evan, he ran up to me after his last soccer game and hugged me. And he says, Mom, do you know you didn't miss not one soccer game? And I knew I hadn't missed a soccer game. But the fact that he knew, that was when I knew I was a success. Because for me, it wasn't monetary as much as it was being there for my children. And that just showed me right out the gate. And I'm getting chills just thinking about it now. And he's 29. But as a third grader, he was so appreciative. And I think a lot of times we take our kids for granted, but they're watching us. They're watching us. They're paying attention. And that showed me without any doubt that he was watching and paying attention to what I was doing. And so that just made me feel like a success.
So you go back and say to Candy from 20 years ago, read my book.
I would say before you even take the pre-licensing class, read this book. And it's funny. I interview agents all the time, and I always give them my book. I don't even make them buy it. I say, "Here's the book. I want you to read this book and make sure that you know what you're getting into." So a lot of what I do in my training is online. Is that I don't want anybody to have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is built. All you have to do is just look at all of these pieces, and you can get it together way faster than I did because mine was just trial and error. And I don't want anybody to have to ramp up like I had to ramp up. I want you to hit the ground running so you can see the success that you want to see.
It's a great gift. Great gift. Oh, thanks for being with us, Candy.
I love talking to two of you. You guys are just so insightful. I always learn something new from the two of you, and I just enjoy being in your presence.
Well, today was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.